There's something about flip phones that make you feel very powerful, especially when you're getting off the call and you gotta cut it off. The good old days. Today we are looking at the Galaxy Flip 4, the fourth iteration in the Flip series, and in my opinion might be one of the best folding phones out there. Let's talk about it. Okay, so as I tell you why I think this is the best compact folding phone, I will also try to explain how we got here. This is the fourth iteration of the Flip series. So this is the Flip 4, says so in the title. There is a Fold 4, which is a bigger phone, essentially opens up into a tablet. And I've tried that, there's another video somewhere you can check that out. But this is the Flip 4. This is the most compact thing out there on the market. Is there a competitor? Yes, there is a Motorola RAZR 2022 edition. Every now and then I will bring that up in this video, but that's not the focus here, but at least just to give you context if you're thinking about competition. When you get this phone, the Flip 4, in the box, you will get the phone, the USB-C cable, a SIM ejector tool, and that's it. That's right, you guessed it, we're still not getting power banks. In comparison to the Motorola, in the box there will be a 33-watt power brick where you get nothing here. But they're trying really hard to sell that phone, considering that it is currently selling in Asia, China I believe, and there might be a worldwide release. So who knows, might be the same box, might not, but I think it'll be the same box. However, if you do buy the Flip 4, if you pre-ordered it, and Samsung has a bunch of great deals that they tend to throw in that charger anyway, but it will be a 25-watt charger, not the same. Moving on. If you look at the outside of the phone in comparison to the Flip 3 where it's coming from, it's now matte, which is similar to what they've done with the Buds 2. It's no longer glossy. The old one used to kind of slip around, especially when you put it on the table. It now has a matte finish with Gorilla Glass Victus Plus, and it has armor aluminum on the side, which is now glossy. That is reversed if you looked at the Flip 3. If you still own a Flip 3, you can just check it out in your hand and you see that they just flipped it around. Another new change is the hinge. It may look exactly the same, but not really. It's slightly slimmer, but it's still just as sturdy, if not even sturdier than the Flip 3. And it still has something Samsung calls flex mode, basically allowing it to hold itself in any position you leave it in, which is really cool. And it gives this phone added functionality because once you fold it up and you're running an application, if that application is optimized, it sort of moves one half of the application to one end of the screen and lets you do other control features at the bottom. If the app isn't even optimized, it can sort of force it into flex mode, giving you weird options for controls at the bottom, like skipping tracks or even an on-screen mouse where you can use two fingers, but I'm not sure how practical that is to use two-finger mouse on a screen this small, but we'll talk a bit more about that later. Still on the hinge, yes, there is a gap because it's kind of hard to make something that folds and slides over each other without there being some kind of gap. But this thing is still certified IPX8, meaning that it is safe for up to 1 meter of water for 30 minutes. But the X means there is no dust resistance or ingress because of that gap. So dust will get in. Even when you fold it, see there's a bit of space between the screens so I can see right through. So yes, there may be some dust in there, but the way it's designed, Samsung claims it sort of pushes dust back out. And then you may be wondering, how is it that it is not rated for dust resistance, but it is rated for water resistance? Well, because the insides are coated with oleophobic coating. So the insides are protected, so even if water gets in there and touches it, it's not gonna damage anything serious. So there you go. But don't throw your stuff in the water. It's a $1,000 device. Since we're talking about being paranoid about dropping it into water or dropping it in general, most fears about a brick phone is when you drop it when it's open, it's 50-50. It's either gonna hit the screen, hit the sides, or hit the back. But in the case of a foldable, once you fold it, you sort of eliminate that possibility of touching the screen at all. And better so because these are soft screens. You know, if you really dig at them with anything sharp, you're gonna damage them. So it just makes sense to fold it in and keep it safe between that clamp and that Gorilla Victus glass. However, Samsung has thought it through and they've given you a 1.9-inch AMOLED screen on the outside. This screen is useful. It's not just there to just look at your notifications. It's actually functional in ways that make sense. If you have a theme that covers your phone in the form of a case, you can download, you know, like an animation that supports that theme. This is the Star Wars version, so it kind of shoots at the Death Star every time I tap it and I wake it up. See? Pew, pew, pew. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry I made that sound. But that's what it does. And there are different themes for different covers. Secondly, you can use this if you're paranoid about always flipping it open. Some people worry that the hinge is too strong. Not for me, you know, I'm gangsta, I can flip it open, see? Okay, let's try that again. flip it over. It took me some practice, but I got it. Because you gotta have that flip motion on the flip phone. However, if you're not me, you don't want to take the risk of flipping your phone away, you can use this screen to look at your messages, because it's useful if you swipe from the top down. You have quick toggles to turn off Wi-Fi, quick sound off, Bluetooth. If you swipe it back up and swipe to the right, you can see messages. Swipe left, you can see quick apps that are running in the back. You can even dictate messages from this thing, and that way you can respond, because of course you're not going to type on this tiny screen. And that makes it kind of even more useful in folded form and keeps it even safer, so you're not worried about it slipping all the time. But quick comparison, I talked about the Motorola RAZR 2022. That has an even bigger outer screen at about 2.7 or so. And that screen is fully functional. It does everything. Whatever you can run inside, you can run on that screen. You can even play any game on that screen. But does that make it better? Talk about a little bit more at the end, because I've had some time with that phone. My friend has one of those. He imported it all the way from China. While it may sound like a better proposition, not everything that shines is gold. Well, could be silver, could be diamonds, but you get the metaphor I'm going for here. So when you unfold this baby, it becomes a 6.7-inch full AMOLED display, right? 120 hertz, full variable refresh rate. I say full variable refresh rate because the Flip 3 only had like a pseudo fully variable refresh rate. It used to stop at 60 hertz and used to somewhere toggle between 60 hertz and 120 hertz. This will go all the way down to a static 1 hertz, if you're looking at just a picture, and all the way to 120 hertz for that buttery smooth feel when you're scrolling. It has dual firing speakers with the earpiece acting as the second speaker if you need it for that sound quality. In terms of control, yes, very familiar. Samsung has always gotten this right. They're one of the few buds that lets you do pretty much everything. There's a fingerprint reader on the power button, which is a convenient place to have it, in my opinion. Just makes sense, right? It's right there. And then you have all your other unlock features, facial unlock, if power button is not your thing. And the bezels are ever so slightly smaller versus the Flip 3. It's hardly noticeable. You'd have to have them side by side and sort of like measure with your eyes to really notice, to see the difference. But other than that, you can't tell. But there is a change there, just so you know if you're considering getting this over that, or you have one and you're looking to upgrade. Someone asked me if you can game on this thing for very long periods of time, at a time. And my answer was yes and no. Yes, you can absolutely game on this thing. This thing is rocking a Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. So it'll take the game, it'll run it. But for how long? Not very. If you're running a high-end game, Genshin Impact, or even playing Apex for too long, after about 5 minutes, the processor will throttle down really quickly, because the thermals are really, they kind of suck. It gets really hot. I guess because it's 2 bricks in one and less of a space to dissipate that heat, so it's struggling to manage the heat on the processor. So it'll throttle down so basically that the processor doesn't catch fire. That's what it's trying to do. It's trying to save your phone. So if you're playing casual gaming, it'll work just fine. That gray screen, everything's great. But you will feel that heat once you start to game for longer periods of time, and your performance will drop. I said your performance will drop, right? And everybody in the back was looking at me funny, like, no, not the general performance of the phone. The phone will function perfectly. Every other task will work buttery smooth. We talked about gaming specifically, asked by that responsible person. Remember, I talked about gaming in terms of performance dropping after a few minutes. But general function of this phone won't bug it at all. It gets much better. How long does this phone last on a full day usage? That used to be a problem on the Flip 3, because that had a 3300 milliamp hour battery. This has a 3700 milliamp hour battery. So now it's a proper all-day phone. Not the biggest battery out there, but for the size of this, it'll do just nicely. I tried it on full usage, GPS, gamed for about an hour. It held its own, went through the day, no problem. Plus, this supports 25 watt fast charging now, so I can get at least 55% off a 30-minute charge. But of course, you have to use a charger capable of 25 watt charging or more to get that much speed when you're charging. And in terms of taking pictures, it's okay. It's okay. It has 2 main sensors, 12 megapixels, and a 10 megapixel shooter on the selfie on the inside. That 10 megapixel shooter on the inside, I wouldn't even advise you bother using it, because the form factor of the phone takes advantage of you using your 12 megapixel shooters as your main camera, because you can always double click the power button outside, and it'll, once you unlock it and double click it, it'll open up the camera app. So you can use this as a viewfinder and take the picture with the main sensor. So that's a great advantage when it comes to foldables. Again, I talked about comparisons to this. The Motorola, which I mentioned earlier, has a 48 megapixel camera at the back. And we all know that it's not about the size, it's how you use it. Jay was just smiling once he knew I was going there. Oh God, that's terrible. Why was I laughing at that so hard? It's not about the size, it's how you use it. Because these days it's computational photography, right? Google has proved this over time. Apple only recently upgraded its megapixels. It's been running 12 megapixels forever. You know, and it's the truth. The computers will do most of the work, light sensors, balancing, etc., etc. And that's what I noticed with the Motorola when I tried it against this bad boy. This would give you more consistent shots versus the Motorola RAZR 2022. That has a slower shutter speed, so if you move even just the slightest bit while taking a shot, you're going to get blurry shots. You have to be almost perfect in daylight to take the shot to take advantage of all those megapixels. But this will give you far more consistent shots in different lighting conditions because Samsung has figured out its algorithm and its computational photography over time, and that's what you get with that quality. In terms of the internal screen on the Motorola, even though it's the same height, it does have a wider architecture at the bottom. So your dual finger typing may be a bit more comfortable on the Motorola versus the slim form factor on the Samsung if you don't have slim fingers. But again, that's something to nitpick. It's neither here nor there. I will do a full comparison video and then you can make your call. But if I had to make a call right now, the Samsung is a more put together phone and they've had several iterations to sort of figure it out. I'm pretty sure I would trust it better in a battle of quality, shooters, spec performance, to hold its own in comparison to Motorola. One more comparison about the Motorola versus the Samsung Flip 4. The refresh rate here is 120 Hertz. That's great. Really, on a phone, most people can't see the difference, so they claim. But the Motorola has 144 Hertz. That's like PC gaming, you know? I don't know why. You know, that's something you probably find on the ROG phone. But it has that. It's super smooth. That's something to consider as well when it comes to the smoothness of transitions on the screen. But again, a lot of people can't tell the difference at those really high refresh rates. I think it takes a while to sort of train your eye, but that's just me. I'm probably just old. All right, enough comparisons. Let's wrap it up. So coming from the Flip 3, you get a better battery, a matte finish, supposedly smaller bezels if you pixel peep, and an all-day longer phone. Why not? Basically, they're all iterative upgrades, right? If you think about it. And why not? Samsung is in a place where it's dominating the foldable phone market, and there's no reason to really rock the boat. So if they can make iterative upgrades that make the phone even slightly better, why not? That's great. And that's what Samsung is doing, playing it safe until someone really rocks the market. The next thing they really need to focus on is getting rid of the crease, because that's the biggest ding for me. Once you're trying to swipe anywhere in that middle, you will feel that indentation. But other than that, it really is a solid compact phone, because when it's folded down, it'll fit anywhere, any pocket, and won't take up your space and folds out into a standard size phone. It's the future. It's something we used to think about decades ago, and it's here, it's now. So that's my thoughts on the Samsung Galaxy Flip 4. I think it's the best compact foldable phone out there. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you're just getting into the Fold series, this might be the one you want to try first. Convenient size. The other one, I liked the Fold, but the Flip is just more convenient. The Fold is, you know, you could play table tennis with it if you unfold it, and you have to have a big pocket or a backpack to throw it in. This will slide into any jeans, and even your front pocket, and sit there conveniently. But again, let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to hit that notification button, like and subscribe. I really appreciate all the comments you guys leave behind. If you have any questions specifically you want me to answer for this, just drop it down there and we'll get right to it. I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.